Darkness fell over Lake Herman Road. The night was eerily quiet, with only the occasional rustle of leaves and distant hoot of an owl breaking the silence. This road, often deserted and shrouded in mystery, had an unsettling aura that seemed to whisper secrets of the past. A young couple, David and Betty Lou, sat in their car. They were high school sweethearts, full of dreams and plans for the future. That night they sought a moment of peace and solitude, away from the prying eyes of the world. They were parked at a lover's lane, enjoying the peace of the night. The stars above twinkled brightly, casting a gentle glow over the serene landscape. It was a perfect night for young love, or so they thought. Suddenly, a bright light blinded them. It was so intense that it seemed to pierce through the darkness, shattering their moment of tranquility. The light was unexpected, jarring, and filled them with an immediate sense of dread. A man approached their car. His movements were deliberate, almost methodical, as if he had done this many times before. The couple's hearts raced as they watched him draw closer, their minds racing with questions and fears. He wore a strange, hooded costume. The hood obscured his face, adding to the air of menace that surrounded him. It was a sight straight out of a nightmare, something that seemed too surreal to be happening in real life. Panic gripped the young couple. They clung to each other, their breaths coming in short, terrified gasps. The sense of impending doom was palpable, and they knew they were in grave danger. They had no chance to escape. The man was too close, and the car doors seemed to lock them in a prison of metal and glass. Their options were limited, and time was running out. Gunshots pierced the quiet night. The sound was deafening, echoing through the stillness and sending shockwaves of terror through the couple. Each shot was a brutal reminder of their helplessness. David and Betty Lou were brutally attacked. The violence was swift and merciless, leaving them both wounded and in shock. The car, once a symbol of their love, was now a scene of horror and bloodshed. David managed to survive the attack, but Betty Lou tragically did not. Her life was cut short in a moment of senseless violence, leaving David to grapple with the trauma and loss. The killer vanished into the night, leaving behind a chilling scene. The police arrived to find a landscape of chaos and sorrow with no trace of the perpetrator. The darkness seemed to swallow him whole, as if he were a phantom. This was just the beginning of a reign of terror that would grip California. The state, known for its sunny beaches and vibrant cities, was about to be plunged into a nightmare that would haunt its residents for years to come. The killer, who would soon be known as the Zodiac, had made his mark. His methods were chillingly calculated, and his identity remained a mystery. The name Zodiac would soon become synonymous with fear and death. The Zodiac killer wasn't content with just taking lives. He craved attention, notoriety. He wanted to be more than just a faceless murderer. He wanted to be a legend, a figure of terror that would be remembered for generations. He wanted the world to know his name, to fear his actions. He sent letters to newspapers, taunting the police and the public, playing a twisted game of cat and mouse that kept everyone on edge. And so began a twisted game of cat and mouse with the police and the public, a game that would span years and leave a trail of fear and confusion in its wake. The Zodiac's cryptic messages and ciphers added layers of complexity to the investigation. A game played out in the pages of newspapers and through terrifying letters sent directly to their doorsteps. Each letter was a puzzle, a taunt, a reminder that the Zodiac was always watching, always waiting. The fear he instilled was not just in his actions, but in the psychological torment he inflicted on an entire community. Days after the Lake Herman Road attack, newspapers received a chilling message. It was a handwritten letter, filled with strange symbols and cryptic messages. The letter was unlike anything the public had seen before. A mix of eerie precision and chaotic scribbles that seemed to mock the very idea of order and understanding. The writer claimed responsibility for the attacks. He called himself Zodiac. This name would soon become synonymous with fear and mystery, a moniker that would haunt the collective consciousness of the nation. The letter included a cipher, a coded message. This cipher was a puzzle that seemed to challenge the intellect of anyone who dared to look at it. A riddle wrapped in an enigma that promised answers, but delivered only more questions. The Zodiac promised to unleash more terror if the code wasn't cracked and published. This ultimatum sent shivers down the spines of both the public and the authorities, creating a sense of urgency and dread that permeated every corner of society. The public was captivated. Fear and intrigue spread with each new letter. People gathered in coffee shops, living rooms, and street corners, discussing the latest developments, speculating on the identity of the mysterious killer, and sharing their own theories and fears. The Zodiac's messages were a bizarre mix of boasts, threats, and strange symbols. Each letter was a new chapter in a twisted game, a game where the stakes were life and death, and the rules were known only to the killer himself. He seemed to revel in the terror he was causing. The Zodiac's letters were not just communications, they were performances, carefully crafted to elicit maximum fear and confusion. He played the media like a fiddle, using their hunger for a story to spread his message of fear far and wide. The newspapers, radio stations, and television networks became unwitting accomplices in his campaign of terror, amplifying his voice and spreading his chilling words to millions. The police were baffled. They had a killer on the loose who seemed to enjoy taunting them. Each new letter was a slap in the face, a reminder of their inability to catch him, and a challenge to their authority and competence. The pressure to catch the Zodiac mounted with each passing day. Detectives worked around the clock, sifting through mountains of evidence, following up on countless leads, and trying to piece together the puzzle that was the Zodiac killer. The cryptic messages became a focal point of the investigation. Experts in cryptography, linguistics, and psychology were brought in to analyze the letters, each hoping to find the key that would unlock the mystery. Could they crack the code and uncover the killer's identity? The question loomed large, a dark cloud over the investigation. The Zodiac's ciphers were more than just puzzles. They were a battle of wits, a deadly game where the prize was justice and the cost of failure was more innocent lives. A special task force was formed to catch the Zodiac. This was no ordinary investigation. It required the collaboration of some of the best minds in law enforcement. The Zodiac's reign of terror had gripped the public with fear, and the pressure to bring him to justice was immense. Detectives from different jurisdictions worked tirelessly, following every lead. They came together, pooling their resources and expertise, determined to put an end to the Zodiac's killing spree. Each detective brought a unique set of skills to the table, creating a formidable team. They pored over the letters, searching for clues. The Zodiac's cryptic messages were a puzzle that needed to be solved. Every letter was meticulously analyzed, with the hope that it would reveal something, anything that could lead to his capture. The task force knew that understanding the mind of the killer was crucial. They interviewed witnesses, hoping for a break in the case. Each interview was conducted with precision, as the detectives sought to piece together the Zodiac's movements and methods. Witnesses were often scared, their memories clouded by fear, but the detectives pressed on, knowing that even the smallest detail could be significant. But the Zodiac was always one step ahead, vanishing into thin air after each attack. His ability to evade capture was both frustrating and terrifying. The task force was left chasing shadows, always just a moment too late. The Zodiac's elusiveness became a haunting reminder of the challenges they faced.
We were relentless, you know. The determination within the task force was palpable. Each detective was driven by a deep sense of duty and a personal commitment to stopping the Zodiac. The long hours and sleepless nights were a testament to their dedication. Every lead, every clue, we chased it down. No stone was left unturned. The task force followed every possible lead, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. They knew that the key to solving the case could be hidden in the most unexpected places, but he was always just out of reach. The frustration was immense. Each time they thought they were close, the Zodiac would slip away, leaving them with more questions than answers. The sense of being so near, yet so far, was a constant source of anguish.
Two detectives, Dave Toschi and Bill Armstrong, became the faces of the investigation. Their dedication and relentless pursuit of the Zodiac made them well-known figures in the media. They were the embodiment of the task force's resolve, working tirelessly to bring the killer to justice. They were relentless in their pursuit of the Zodiac. Toschi and Armstrong's commitment was unwavering. They spent countless hours reviewing files, chasing leads, and coordinating with other jurisdictions. Their partnership was a crucial element of the task force's efforts. They chased down countless leads, interviewed hundreds of suspects, and spent countless hours trying to decipher the killer's cryptic messages. The complexity of the case required a meticulous approach. Each suspect was thoroughly investigated, and every piece of evidence was scrutinized in the hope of finding a breakthrough.
The case consumed us. It was more than just a job. It became an all-encompassing mission. The detectives lived and breathed the case, their thoughts constantly occupied by the Zodiac and the quest to stop him. It became a personal mission. The emotional toll was significant. The detectives felt a deep, personal responsibility to the victims and their families. The desire for justice drove them, even as the case took a heavy toll on their personal lives. We wanted justice for the victims and their families. The pain and suffering of the victims' families were a constant reminder of why they couldn't give up. Each unsolved murder was a wound that needed to be healed with justice.
But the investigation was fraught with challenges. The task force faced numerous obstacles, from limited resources to the sheer complexity of the case. The Zodiac's cunning and the lack of concrete evidence made every step forward feel like a monumental effort. The Zodiac was careful, leaving little evidence behind. His meticulous nature and ability to cover his tracks made it incredibly difficult for the detectives to find solid leads. Each crime scene was a testament to his ability to evade capture. The lack of forensic technology at the time made it even harder to connect the dots. The tools and techniques available to the detectives were limited, making the task of piecing together the evidence even more challenging. Modern forensic methods that we take for granted today were simply not available. Dead ends and false leads became a source of frustration. The task force often found themselves back at square one, their hopes dashed by another dead end. The emotional and mental strain was immense, but they couldn't afford to give up. The pressure to catch the killer mounted, but the Zodiac remained an elusive phantom. The public's fear and demand for justice added to the pressure. The task force knew that failure was not an option, but the Zodiac's ability to remain hidden made their mission feel like an endless pursuit of a ghost. The Zodiac's reign of terror left a trail of devastation in its wake. Families were shattered, lives changed forever. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were his first victims, their young lives cut tragically short. Darlene Ferrin and Paul Stein were also gunned down, their futures stolen by a killer's bullet. Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell were attacked at Lake Berryessa. Cecilia fought bravely but succumbed to her injuries. Brian survived the attack, bearing both physical and emotional scars. He would live the rest of his life haunted by the memory of that day. The survivors and the families of the victims were left to pick up the pieces. They grappled with unimaginable loss and the constant fear that the killer might strike again. The Zodiac's crimes left a permanent scar on their lives, a constant reminder of the darkness that had touched them.